Good afternoon, Avery Pohl. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am extremely grateful because you seize a defiant flame growing endlessly with your passion, and it is one of a kind blaze that is reminding me to maintain a bold statement of resilience when opening the vast story of Paul. How are you doing today?
I am excellent. I hope that you are doing well. I've never had quite an intro like that before, so thank you so much.
Absolutely. And a flame is identified by its vibrant red color, which, when present on a winter hat, carries the promise of spring's eventual return. And behind the flowers, we can find Abigail Pritchett.
Yes, we can. Wow, I haven't gotten to speak much about this project in a while, so it's fun to go down memory lane. Abigail Pritchett is someone I played when I think I was 8 years old. So now I'm 23. So it's fun to sort of walk back and think about it a little bit. Sound of My Voice was actually the first movie that I ever got to be a part of. And it was a really fun casting process. I was working as a model mainly as a child, and I had no idea that acting was something I was going to end up being fortunate enough to do full-time as an adult. So that was sort of the project that opened my eyes to this whole wild industry. And yeah, I auditioned in New York, and then I got to fly out to Los Angeles for the first time as a kid for my callback. And I had a lovely experience with both Brett Marling and Zol Butmunglish, and I was fortunate enough to book the role. I came back out for, I think a couple weeks. I don't know, it's a little fuzzy in my brain because I was 8, but I got to film my first movie, and I'm super grateful for that. And it was really a very cool first project to get to be a part of. And Britt and Zol have since gone on to make some really, really original content. And I think that that's something that we can kind of lack in this industry now. So, you know, it's fun to always see fresh and new ideas out there.
Absolutely, Avery Pohl. This was a very fuzzy project, and I would love to discuss about that feature film called Sound of My Voice. Can you tell us a little bit more about the storyline?
Well, the storyline is mainly about these two journalists who end up, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. This was quite the plot for 8-year-old me to wrap my head around. But essentially, it was these two journalists who end up indoctrinating themselves into this, for lack of a better word, cult led by a woman who claims to be from the future and has time traveled. And I play the lead's mother, but in the present, the past, whatever you want to call it. So she sort of had come back and wanted to meet her mom as a child.
Furthermore, Avery Pohl, I began by talking about your fire and passion that is connected to the red color, as well as the head winter hat that your character is wearing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that very specific object?
Yes, so I remember trying on several hats for that project, and we eventually landed on one that looked very well loved, and that sort of showed how much she wanted to sort of, I think, hide parts of herself. Like, Abigail was not a very sociable young girl, and she had a very hard time in school and was very bullied, but she also wasn't afraid to stand up for herself in very unexpected and not traditional ways. And I think that that was an object that she felt most comfortable in at the time.
Absolutely, Avery Pohl. And as every kid, Abigail Pritchett was also a young architect crafting her own ephemeral citadel from the fleeting fabrics of bricks.
I think Abigail, and correct me if I'm not fully answering your question, but I think Abigail was a really wonderful character to get to play as such a young girl, because she was so different from who I was at 8. And she had such a different life experience, and she got to go have this very, for lack of a better phrase, out of pocket experience as a young child. I mean, I don't know about you, but imagine meeting your mom from when she was 8 years old. That's a very strange thing to get to experience as a child. So I think she didn't really know what to make of it, but there was a bond and a connection and a love that she couldn't quite explain. And that, I think, is true for both sides of the equation, both for Britt and myself. So, yeah, it was a very interesting experience. But I think also it kind of teaches you that everything goes back to, like, love and connection at the end of the day, too. Whether it's there or it's not, I think it can tell you a lot about just the human experience.
If I understood correctly, Avery Pohl, it all comes back to connection and love, and a very strange element and scene is the secret handshake that you're doing with Maggie, because this is a series of very timed clapping movements with highly complex techniques involving also the back of the hands and interlocking the fingers.
Yes, I remember that I shot my scenes a little bit later than in the production schedule than some of the adults had. And so the handshake was already sort of set, and I remember Britt coming over to teach it to me, and I practiced the handshake quite a lot with one of my castmates, Mr. Richard Wharton, and I remember thinking he was the coolest man I had ever met in all of Los Angeles, and I wonder how he's doing. He's a very sweet man. I haven't spoken to him in several years now, but that was a side note. And I just remember absolutely loving that we got to have this secret handshake. It felt so special, both to me as the actor and also as the character. I was like, oh, this is so fun. It reminded me of, what I did at school with my friends. And my brother and I adapted our own secret handshake based off of that. as he got a little older, because I think he was 4 when we first shot it. So I was very excited to share it with my little brother as well. And I think that, you know, once again, to sort of piggyback on the connection thing, like that really showed Abigail at the time that this wasn't just a normal person that she was meeting. And while maybe she could or could not wrap her head around the experience she just had, it really, I think, was a beautiful way to show some sort of familiarity between the two of them. And I also think that the handshake was very much a sort of defining characteristic in the film as well, because I remember getting videos of people who had learned the handshake and sort of sent it in to us. And I think this was when Twitter was very new. I don't even know if Instagram was out yet. I would have to check the timeline of events, but I remember seeing stuff as a kid of people I didn't know doing this handshake. And I remember that was a very, very interesting and very much had shifted my perspective on things, getting to see that.
Absolutely. Avery, Kristen, Paul, we might need to double check the timeline because that feature film came out in 2011, and I am very curious if at that time you watched the entire piece, because it is restricted with the R rating, which means that every person under 17 would need a parent or adult guardian.
My mother was very much present through any time I watched that. And I remember that was a big discussion between my mom and I believe Zal on if I would be allowed to watch the film or not. And I think it was pretty much a day of decision when we very fortunately got into Sundance, and I was able to go to the premiere, and everything was very much a whirlwind. I was in a place I had never been before at 8, and I had seen, or I guess it was 9, but had seen snow for the first time, and it was really a cool experience. And I think the premiere was at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and my mom was worried I'd even be able to stay up that late. But I did end up seeing the movie. I had a great time. I don't know if 9-year-old me understood all of the concepts addressed in the film. And then I got to go to the LA premiere a couple months later. Once again, have to check the timeline. And my brother got to go with me as well, my older brother this time, not the 4-year-old. And I remember getting to watch it a second time and understanding more over the months. I got to grow up a little bit.
As a matter of fact, Avery, Christian, Paul, I have to admit that even myself at 22 is having some trouble to understand all the pieces. So it is completely normal for the version of yourself in 2011 to also struggle a little bit.
I think it was actually really nice that I got to watch it that young, though, because my brain was maybe a little more open to the abstract concepts. So I fully accepted that, yeah, this was time travel and she came here and that was great. That was part of the story. And yeah, I'm actually really interested to go back and watch it now as an adult because I haven't seen it in a while. So it'll be interesting to see how my perspective has shifted from age 9 to 23.
In definitive, Avery, Christian, Paul, it might be a good idea to revisit that feature film called The Sound of My Voice, as well as returning to the now closed Northridge Skateland.
Wow, what a day. And what a switch. Yes, my daughter's psycho friend shot at the Northridge Skateland. That was a fun day. I actually did know how to roller skate. I brought my own skates to set. I was really excited to get to put it into a film. Not that I am a professional roller skater by any means, but I remember that I had to learn how to skate for a separate audition that same year. So I was really excited that the 2 lessons I decided to pay for that audition paid off in another way. And yeah, we actually got kicked out of the Northridge Skateland Center early. We had booked the whole day for filming, and we had this outdoor scene that we needed to film. However, we got most of the way through the day, and the owner was like, "We have a private party, you guys have to leave." And we were very confused because we had booked it for the time and we weren't finished, and these movies go really quickly. We don't have a ton of spare time for reshoots or anything like that, or adding days to production. The budget is set and you have to make it work. So we ended up leaving knowing we didn't finish our last scene of the day, and I found out later that Kanye West had booked out the Northridge Skate Center for some sort of event. It was Kardashian and Kanye associated at the time. I don't really know what it was for. Probably a kid's birthday or some sort of brand endorsement video. I have no idea, but I just remember going, oh, now I understand why they want us to leave. But yeah.
Absolutely, Avery Christian Pohl. But in that day, you were here first, and I would love to discuss about that feature film called My Daughter's Psycho Friend, and especially that character named Lexi that is completely redefining the meaning of the word prank.
Yes, Lexi was, I'm gonna call her a handful for anyone, even herself. It was a super fun project to get to be a part of, because it was the first time that I had, as an almost adult, I filmed it when I was 17, gotten to be the lead in or one of the leads in a movie. So I was very excited and very happy to be there. And our lead, Taylor Blackwell, I actually knew her from working as a kid in Miami. So it was a very small world, full circle moment that I hadn't seen her in 15 years or 12, something like that. And we got to run into each other again and work together. And she's just such a doll and so talented. And she really set a beautiful tone for the rest of the set. And I, still keep in touch with some people from that movie and see them on a fairly regular basis. So I think that was a very beautiful, very positive experience to take out of it. And it was a great 3 or 4 weeks. I had a really fun time. We picked some wardrobe from mine. We picked some wardrobe from casting houses. My mom went on runs to Target to try and fill out all the wardrobes. It was really all hands on deck, and it was a fun experience. I had a good time.
It was Avery Kristen Pohl, a very positive experience, which is at the complete opposite of the relationship between Lexi and Sierra, because you're qualifying her of naive, malleable, and innocent, and you believe that she will be very easily flipped into her team in no time.
Yes, I think Lexi is a very scary individual, but I had a very fun time playing her. I'm not even gonna lie. My favorite movie growing up was Mean Girls, so I felt like I got to have a little taste of that. It's very similar in plot points of the more naive girl moves to town, and you sort of have this mean girl who goes, oh, there's fresh meat. Let's see what we can do with this. And yeah, I think it was very cool. We got to go shoot up at Burbank High School, and I had driven past it a bunch of times. But I had never been inside, and, we, got to meet a lot of different people, and it was fun to play opposite of Taylor. Like, she was very, very lovely to work with. And so was Lauren Spates, such a sweet person. And, while Lexi and Sierra had their differences, Taylor and I got along really well.
In addition to playing next to Taylor Blackwell, you also had the opportunity to sit on that leopard skin pattern sofa, as well as pushing a Colorado registered Subaru Outback.
Yes. Speaking of the Subaru Outback, Lauren and I were, I don't remember the filming location. I don't remember the name of it. I remember where we were, and I could drive you there, but I couldn't remember the name currently. We had a tow truck with a hook attached to the car, and we were just supposed to push on the car, let it go, and in that split second, the tow truck would let the car fall into the water. Lauren and I got a little carried away, and we actually pushed the car into the water ourselves on our third or fourth take. Our director, Michael Pfeiffer, yelled cut, and the tow truck guy was like, "You guys know you pushed that, right? I didn't hit the release button." I was like, oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna say physics was on our side with it being in a slope, but that was a really fun day. I mean, we shot at night, so I think, and it was the last couple days of shooting. We added a day to production to make sure we could have all the shots we needed. And poor Taylor was freezing in the water the other day, and everybody was sort of on their last reserves of energy to make sure we got it all done in time. And while Taylor was definitely cold and we were all up very late at night, I think we all still had a fun time despite all of that. And the leopard print couch, what an image. I had so much fun with all of those scenes because they were so early in the film, and, you can really see Lexi in her comfort zone, bossing everybody around. And yeah, she had some fun lines that day. I had a really fun time getting to shoot those, and we shot them all really efficiently too. Like, every party scene that was in there, pretty much every scene in the house, I'm pretty sure we shot over the course of maybe 2 days. So we got them in really quickly.
As a matter of fact, Avery Pohl, you were very effective as a duo to push that Subaru Outback, and that physical performances need to be closely studied at the General Hospital.
Yes, I was very fortunate, and at General Hospital, they let me do a lot of my own stunts. I never told Frank about pushing the Subaru Outback into the water, but there was only one time they were like, you're not allowed to do this stunt yourself. Otherwise, they just let me do it, which was very fun. Because that one's a network show, there's a lot of rules in terms of what actors are allowed to do and not allowed to do. We had one actor had to jump out of a tree one time, and they brought in a giant mat just for him to drop a foot off the ground, because they have to make sure everyone's really safe and ensure no one gets hurt. And the one stunt I wasn't allowed to do, they was with Maura West. They had to have me flip over backwards over a turret. And they were like, because you're going backwards, there's no way we're letting you do that. We'll leave that to the stunt professionals. And I think that's an excellent idea. And she was amazing, and she did an excellent job. And, you know, we had wigs made for both of the stunt actresses who came in to double that day, and it was really fun. I have a picture of the four of us together. But other than that, I got to do a couple of stunts by myself. Like, we had a practical effect day where the whole attic that I was in got caught on fire, and they would bring in the bars and turn up the flame and turn it down, and they let me actually run through there along with, I believe it was Marcus Coloma. That day his character had been played by two different actors, and I believe Marcus was the one there that day. And that was very fun, a little terrifying. And then there was another time they let me jump off the turret from the attic, and they let me go onto the pads and everything by myself. And the last day of shooting, they brought in stunt doubles for Tabiona and Nick, and they let me just go for it and do it. And I was so excited. I believe his name is Christopher Reed, the guy who doubled Nick. And yeah, he was so great and so nice, and made sure that like I was protected throughout the whole stunt we had to do. And yeah, I love getting to do any physical side of a role that I'm allowed to do. And I think also, even just doing tiny stuff, I really have such a great appreciation for the stunt community and everything that they like put on the line to do their jobs. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line for the sake of the production and the film and for the actors. And I think that it's a very underappreciated part of our industry, and they definitely deserve more recognition, because what they do is incredibly difficult, and I think a very select amount of people can do it really, really well. And I think the stunt community is also a community of people that is so giving towards each other, and so grounded and so kind, and really show up for one another in a way that I don't know if I've seen in the same capacity throughout the rest of the industry.
The stunts artists are working very hard, and they deserve that recognition. And you also enjoyed doing them in the television series and soap opera called General Hospital. And I am very curious about your preparation prior to joining that series, because before you first appeared, there have been more than 14,852 episodes.
I'm impressed that you have the exact number. It baffles me every single time I hear just how many episodes have been produced of General Hospital. I think it's truly amazing, and it's a testament to all the people who have worked so hard to make it happen. I think that there's a wonderful community of people there too who work very, very hard day in and day out to make sure that a show goes up 5 days a week, which is very rare nowadays in the scripted world, especially for hour-long episodes. And in terms of my prep before going to GH, I'll start with the audition process, because I had received a tape. And I remember Tony Martinez gave me a call, and he was like, hey, I know you're going out of town, but there's this thing that I really want you to check out. And I was like, oh, of course, I'll send in a tape. And I had a good amount of time with it, which at the time, I think normally auditions, you would only get a couple of days with, maybe. And this one I had, I think, 7. So I know Mark Teschner always tries to give actors as much time as possible to turn in the best product. And I think that is always great when there is the added time when you can, and sometimes you just can't, but he always tries to make it as easy as possible on everybody, and I appreciate that. I turned in the tape, and then I didn't hear anything for a few weeks, and went on with other stuff, and I got a call, and they said that there's a call back, so I went in person for that, and this was in 2021, so this was my first in-person anything since either early 2020 or late 2019. And I got called back in again a couple days later for a test, and I ended up testing with Eden McCoy. And turns out we had like mutual friends and things like that, and she was so wonderful to work off of, and just what a pro. I've learned so much from her over the years, truly, and I really just think she's great. And I talked with Frank, and I got a phone call a few days later. They're like, okay, show up to set tomorrow, but do all your testing today. So I immediately dropped what I was doing, went and got COVID tested, and picked up a script and canceled a flight and stayed there.
Canceled the flight and stayed there. Avery Pohl. And by playing Esme Prince, you had the opportunity to live an entire life, and besides having a baby son called Ace Kassadin, what would be the biggest lesson that that show taught you?
To pick one is actually really difficult. I learned so much from that show. I really, really did. It was sort of like with my... I started at 19 there, and I finished at 22. It was sort of like my college degree in acting in a way. I learned so much behind the scenes. I learned so much in front of the camera. I think I walked in and out a different actor, basically. I really attribute so much to them, and I think that I got way more reps in as an actor than I ever could have possibly imagined. And I really felt very fortunate and privileged to get to almost play a 2-in-1 character. Of my character started out so bitter and troubled and hurt, and Esme sort of got a second chance at everything in a very messed up way, with having amnesia and having her baby. And I feel like she, for a little bit of time, got to be happy for a second, and that was really fun to get to sort of see some things come full circle. And then she got her memories back, and then was like, all right, well, now I'm on a revenge spree, kind of in some ways rightfully so. A lot of bad stuff had happened to her as well, and yeah, working with the babies was great. I loved them dearly. Joey and Jay are the cutest things I've ever seen in my life, and their mom is amazing, and the dad is super cool, and they're just a great family, and I really hope they're doing amazing. And yeah, it was definitely something that I had to wrap my head around, being like a young mom for the show. And I think there's some things that are kind of hard to teach as an actor, and I think one of those is how to have amnesia. I don't think that's really in any acting class out there. And another one is how to be a parent when you haven't experienced that in your own life. I do think that was something that I was a little nervous about portraying, because, you know, there's so many wonderful moms out there, and I think that's an experience that's sort of hard to replicate without that sort of understanding that sort of love of a child. But I did my best, and I talked to as many moms as I could, and yeah, I just remembered to sort of lead with love.
In conclusion, you had an entire parental experience, and with your presence here today, we officially just passed the 230 episodes that you did on General Hospital, because this is episode 231 of VH Berries. Thank you very much.
Oh my
Avery
goodness,
Pohl.
congratulations. That's a lot of episodes.